Doggy Bag. Story by Carl Otto. The neon lights of the rusty nail flickered in the puddles left by the evening rain. Anna stood under the bar's awning, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, more from the chill in the air than nerves. She glanced at her watch, 11:45 p.m. It had been a long night, filled with laughter, drinks, and the intoxicating rush of a night out. "So," Mark said, sliding up next to her. At 6'2", he towered over her 5'4" frame. "I had a great time tonight." Anna looked up at him, a warm smile on her lips. "Me too." "It's been unexpected," Mark chuckled, his deep voice sending a shiver down her spine. "Unexpected good, I hope." "Definitely good," Anna replied, then bit her lip, hesitating. "Listen, I don't usually do this, but would you like to come back to my place for a nightcap?" Mark's eyes lit up, a grin spreading across his face. "I'd love to." As they walked to Anna's house, Mark kept close to her, his hand occasionally brushing against hers. Anna looked like she was enjoying the attention, even as a small voice in the back of her mind urged caution. "So, tell me more about your work," she asked, breaking the silence. Mark shrugged, his broad shoulders rolling under his jacket. "Not much to tell. Corporate finance isn't exactly thrilling conversation." "Oh, come on," Anna teased. "There must be some excitement in all those numbers." Mark laughed, the sound echoing in the quiet street. "Well, there was that time I found a discrepancy in the quarterly report that saved the company millions." "Does that count as exciting?" She grinned up at him. "Look at you, Mr. Superhero Accountant." "Yeah, well," Mark said, his tone suddenly boastful. "The boss practically begged me to take a promotion after that, but I turned it down. Didn't want the extra responsibility, you know?" Anna's smile faltered slightly, but she quickly recovered. "That's interesting. I would have thought you'd jump at the opportunity." They arrived at Anna's house, a modest 2-story in a quiet neighborhood. As Anna fumbled with her keys, Mark stood behind her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Nice place," he murmured, his breath warm on her neck. Anna suppressed a shiver as she pushed the door open. Immediately, deep, rumbling barks filled the air. "Whoa!" Mark exclaimed, taking a step back as 2 large Rottweilers came bounding towards the door. "Buddy, Bosco, down puppies," she commanded, her voice firm but affectionate. The dogs stopped short of the threshold, tail nubs wagging with excitement. "Sorry about that," she said, turning to Mark with an apologetic smile. "They're very protective, but they're big softies once they get to know you." Mark eyed the dogs warily. "They're huge. Are you sure they're friendly?" Anna laughed, reaching down to scratch behind Buddy's ears. "Of course. They're my babies. Wouldn't hurt a fly unless I was in danger." She ushered Mark inside, then turned to the dogs. "Buddy, Bosco, go to your room. Mommy has a guest." With a final curious look at Mark, the Rottweilers trotted off down the hallway. Anna closed their door shortly after. "Their room?" Mark asked, raising an eyebrow. Anna shrugged, smiling. "They're part of the family. They deserve their own space." Mark nodded, a slight frown on his face. "Have you considered getting them fixed? Might calm them down a bit." Anna's smile faltered for a moment. "Oh, I've thought about it, but there are health concerns with neutering large breeds too early. My vet recommended waiting until they're fully grown." Mark nodded, though he didn't look entirely convinced. "I see. Well, I guess you know what's best for them. I just figured they'd be better behaved if they were neutered." Anna's face showed appreciation for his attempt at understanding, even if she sensed a hint of skepticism in his tone. "They're really well behaved once they get to know you," she added, hoping to make him more comfortable. He stepped closer to Anna, towering over her again. "Now, how about that nightcap?" In the kitchen, Anna took a moment to collect herself. She could hear Mark moving around in the living room, the floorboards creaking under his weight. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed 2 wine glasses and a bottle of red. When she returned, she found Mark studying the photos on her mantelpiece. His brow furrowed slightly as he lingered on one particular image. As she entered, he quickly turned, a forced smile not quite reaching his eyes. "You have a lovely home," he said, taking the glass she offered. "Are you here alone?" Anna nodded, settling onto the couch. "Just me and the fur babies." Mark sat next to her, closer than she expected. Their thighs brushed, and Anna felt a flutter in her stomach. "Must get lonely," Mark murmured. His eyes intensely met hers. She took a sip of wine, shaking her head. "Not really. I like my independence. Plus, I'm always busy with work, friends, hobbies, and of course the puppies." "What kind of hobbies?" Mark asked, seeming genuinely interested. Anna's eyes lit up. "Oh, I love to read, hike, and I'm getting really good at cooking. I'm even making Bosco and Buddy's food from scratch. Real meat and everything." Mark nodded, though his eyes had glazed over slightly. "That's nice," he said, clearly uninterested. His hand found her knee, his touch warm through the thin fabric of her dress. "But I can think of more fun things we could be doing." Anna laughed nervously, taking another sip of wine. "Well, the night's still young. Tell me more about you. What do you like to do outside of work?" Mark shrugged, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her knee. "Oh, gym, sports, hanging out with the guys. Nothing too exciting." Anna nodded, though privately she felt a pang of disappointment. She'd hoped for more. Depth, perhaps, or at least a hint of something beyond the surface. "Independence is great and all," Mark said, his voice low. "But everyone needs someone, right?" Anna forced a laugh. "I suppose. But I'm not exactly pining away here." Mark's smile widened. "Well, a beautiful woman like you must have no shortage of admirers." Anna's cheeks flushed in response to the compliment. "Oh, you'd be surprised. I don't really date much." Mark leaned in, his large frame close to hers. "Well, I'm flattered to have made the cut." As Mark moved closer, a sudden burst of barking came from down the hall. Anna jumped slightly, but Mark seemed unfazed. "Sounds like your guard dogs are on high alert," he chuckled, his arms snaking around her shoulders. Anna laughed nervously. "They're probably just excited. They'll settle down soon." The barking continued, more insistent now. Anna felt a twinge of unease, but Mark's proximity was intoxicating. He murmured, his lips close to her ear. "I've been thinking about this all night." Anna's breath caught in her throat. "Oh," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark's free hand came up to cup her cheek, turning her face towards his. "You're so beautiful," he breathed, leaning in. Their lips met, and Anna found herself in the moment. The dog's barking faded into the background as Mark deepened the kiss. The night wasn't too late, and was full of possibilities, some thrilling, some dangerous, and some yet to be revealed. As their kiss deepened, Anna felt a mixture of excitement and unease. Mark's hands began to roam, his touch becoming more insistent. She pulled back slightly, trying to catch her breath. "Mark," she said, her voice slightly shaky. "Maybe we should slow down a bit." Mark's eyes flashed with frustration, or was it anger? It was gone so quickly, Anna wasn't sure she'd seen it at all. He smiled, but again it seemed forced, fake even. "Come on, Anna," he said, his voice low and persuasive. "We're both adults here. You invited me back for a reason, right?" Anna's cheeks continued to flush. "For a nightcap and conversation," she said firmly. "Not this." Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. All right. How about another drink then? To calm our nerves." Anna hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, I'll get it." No, Mark said, standing quickly. "Allow me. It's the least I can do after being so forward." Before she could protest, Mark had scooped up both their glasses and headed for the kitchen. Anna sank back into the couch, her mind racing. The charming, funny man from the bar seemed to have vanished, replaced by someone else. Someone who made her skin crawl. In the kitchen, she could hear Mark opening drawers, presumably looking for a corkscrew. Anna stood up, smoothing down her dress. "I'll show you where the corkscrew is," she called out, walking towards the kitchen. As she entered, Mark turned, a smile on his face. "Found it," he said, holding up the corkscrew. "Why don't you head back to the living room? I'll bring the drinks in a moment. Don't keep me waiting too long," she said with a playful smile, before heading back to the living room. Mark dropped a small tablet in one of the glasses as he poured the wine. He then returned shortly after, a glass of wine in each hand. His smile was back in place, charming and disarming. "Here we go," he said, handing her a glass. A peace offering. As Mark set down the wine glasses, he casually picked up Anna's phone from the coffee table. "Let me just move this out of the way," he said with a smile, placing it on a side table just out of Anna's reach. She felt a flicker of unease as she realized Mark was now between her and her phone, but she quickly dismissed the thought. Everything was going to be okay. She had this. Anna took the glass, managing a small smile. "Thanks." Mark clinked his glass against hers. "To new beginnings," he said, his eyes never leaving hers as he took a long sip. Anna raised the glass to her lips, pretending to sip. She watched Mark over the rim of her glass, her heart pounding. "Is something wrong?" Mark asked, noticing her hesitation. Anna shook her head, forcing a smile. "No, just..." Savoring the moment, Mark's smile widened. He took another, longer sip of his wine. "You know," he said, his voice growing husky, "I've been thinking about this all night." He leaned in closer, his large frame looming over Anna. She felt her heart rate pick up, but not from fear this time. "Yeah, I know. You used that line already," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark chuckled, his breath warm against her cheek. "Did I? Well, it's true. You're intoxicating, Anna." His hand reached out, fingers trailing along her arm. Anna suppressed a shudder, not entirely sure if it was from revulsion or anticipation. "Almost like a drug?" she asked. "Tell me," Mark murmured. "What are you thinking right now?" Anna met his gaze, her eyes unreadable. "I'm thinking that this night isn't going quite how you planned." Mark's brow furrowed slightly, confusion flickering across his face. "What do you mean?" "Oh, nothing," Anna said, her voice taking on an almost playful tone. "Just that things aren't always what they seem." Mark laughed, but it sounded slightly forced. "You're a mystery, Anna." "I like that." He leaned in, his lips inches from hers. "How about we solve that mystery together?" As Mark moved to close the distance, his hand came up to cup her cheek. But suddenly, he seemed unsteady. His brow furrowed deeper, confusion evident in his eyes. I feel strange," he mumbled, his words beginning to slur. What's happening?" Anna watched him carefully, her expression neutral. "Are you all right, Mark? Perhaps you've had too much to drink." Mark shook his head, trying to clear it. "No, this is different. I can't." His words trailed off as his eyes began to lose focus. He swayed on his feet, reaching out to steady himself on the coffee table. "Anna," he slurred, panic creeping into his voice. What's going on?" His legs giving way beneath him. Mark crashed to the floor, the wine glass shattering as it fell from his limp hand. He lay there, unconscious, as Anna stood over him. For a moment, Anna remained still, her heart pounding in her chest. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her face. She set her own untouched glass of wine on the table. "Oh, Mark," she said softly, her voice steady and cold. "You really should have been more careful about what you drink. Somebody might slip something into it." Anna stood there watching Mark's unconscious form, her expression cold and calculated. She glanced at the closed door where muffled whines could be heard. "Patience, babies," she murmured. "Dinner will be ready soon." Hours later, Mark stirred, his eyes fluttering open. He tried to move, only to find himself naked and securely bound to a stainless steel kitchen table. Panic flooded his features as he took in the surroundings of a windowless basement kitchen. What's going on?" Mark slurred, his tongue still thick from the drug. He blinked rapidly, trying to focus on his surroundings. Anna stepped into his field of vision, her expression eerily calm as she pulled her hair back into a ponytail. "Hello, Mark. Sleep well?" Mark's eyes widened in recognition and fear. "Anna, what is this? Some kind of joke?" "No joke, Mark," Anna replied, her voice steady. "This is justice." "Justice? What are you talking about?" Mark struggled against his bonds. "Let me go. This is kidnapping." Anna stepped closer, looking down on him. "Tell me, Mark, how many women have you drugged? How many lives have you ruined?" The color drained from Mark's face. I don't know what you're talking about. Is this about the drink?" "Look, I'm sorry if I crossed a line, but this is insane." "Don't lie to me," Anna said, her voice taking on a dangerous edge. "I've been tracking you for months. I know about Jessica, about Allison, about all of them." Mark's facade crumbled. How did you know? Have you been stalking me?" "I have my ways," Anna replied. "What matters is that it stops now." "Look," Mark said, desperation creeping into his voice. "I admit it, okay? I've made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But I can change. I'll turn myself in, get help. Just please let me go." Anna laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's not how this works, Mark. You've had your chances. Now it's time to face the consequences." "You're insane," Mark spat. "You can't do this. It's murder. You're a psycho." "Murder?" Anna raised an eyebrow. "No, Mark. This isn't murder. This is prevention. I'm making sure you never hurt another woman again." She pulled a cooking apron over her head and then secured it around her waist. "You see, Mark, I'm not a murderer. I'm a protector. A guardian. What I do to save others." "What the hell?" Mark snarled, fear and anger warring in his voice. "You think you're some kind of hero? You're just another psychopath with a god complex." Anna turned, fixing him with a cold stare, wrestling on a pair of tight-fitting vinyl gloves. "That's where you're wrong, Mark. I don't do this for pleasure or power. I do it because someone has to. Because the system failed those women, and I won't let it fail again." "The system?" Mark scoffed. "And what about due process? What about rehabilitation? You're taking away any chance I have to make amends, to become better." "Amends?" Anna's voice dripped with contempt. "Tell that to all the women that wake up screaming every night, to the women who can't trust anyone anymore. Tell that to Allison." "Oh, wait, you can't. She killed herself last month. That's how you got on my radar. She was my sister. Your amends won't bring her back." She produced a boning knife and a thick rubber band. What are you going to do?" His voice trembled. "Please, Anna, I'm begging you. I have a family, a little sister. What will this do to them?" Anna hesitated for a moment, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. "How dare you bring up your sister? You should have thought about her before you drugged and hurt all those women. They had families too." "I know," Mark said, his voice breaking, "and I hate myself for it. Every day. But this isn't justice. This is vengeance. And it won't heal anyone." Anna picked up the band and applied it to his genitalia. "Maybe not, but it will protect future victims. Sometimes, that's the best we can do." "Or maybe," Mark pleaded, "you'll just be creating another victim. Another cycle of pain. Is that really what you want?" Anna hesitated. "What I want is for women to be safe. for monsters like you to face real consequences. Then turn me in, Mark urged. Let me face those consequences legally. Let me be an example of the system working, not failing. Anna stood, torn between her mission and the weight of what she was about to do. Grabbing the knife as it glinted in the dim light, a symbol of the fine line between justice and cruelty, protection and persecution. As she approached, Mark began to thrash wildly on the table. No, please, I'll do anything. I know you would, Anna said softly. That's the problem. Anna leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper. This is for Allison and all the others whose names I'll never know. Mark jerked and screamed as Anna went to work on him. You know, the more you move, the messier this is going to be. Mark laid there groaning and grinding his teeth tight, trying to bear the pain. Then he heard what sounded like 2 pieces of firm wet meat landing in a stainless steel bowl. Anna backed up from the table to observe her handiwork. There, that wasn't so hard. I think I'm getting really good at this. Mark, pale and shaking, stared at her with a mixture of pain and disbelief. Why? He managed to croak out. Anna's voice was cold as she applied a bandage to the wound. Because someone had to stop you, Mark. And my babies, they'll make sure nothing goes to waste. She moved towards the door, where excited whines could be heard. Opening it slightly, she tossed in a small oval piece of meat to each of her dogs. Here's an appetizer, babies. The main course will come later. Turning back to Mark, Anna's voice was devoid of emotion. You'll have time to reflect on your actions, Mark, to feel the fear and helplessness you inflicted on others. And when it's over, you'll never hurt anyone again. With that, Anna left, closing the door behind her. The muffled sounds of Mark's panic mingled with excited canine noises, fading as she walked away.